Life has been very strange lately because I ended up in some communities that are so high level in terms of intellectuality and academics and just the way people are. I think I'm surrounded by very smart people, especially now, and the ways that I end up in these communities are through back doors. I'm not genuinely qualified to be here, or at least that's what I feel, which I'll talk about in this video probably. This video is super unscripted, but I wanted to share because I think it's very important. Because I feel like there's this, not pressure, but like there's this saying that you are the people who you are surrounded by. And true, you are the people that you're surrounded by, but at the same time, diversity of people also makes a diverse person as an individual and as a personality. And if you're only surrounded by the same kind of people and the same, even smart people, the same kind of smart people, then you're gonna get their bad parts too, because as you grow in these areas, STEM or like intellectual achievements or like academia or Olympiads, and then everyone who ends up doing very well in these things have very similar patterns and very similar, I wouldn't say weaknesses, but things that are not, they're different from the normal person who has other goals and has, I don't know, other ways of expressing themselves, but they are similar between themselves because they usually lack to prioritize these things. And being surrounded by people who think the same way, have the same weaknesses, look at life in the same way, makes you also look at life in the same way that they do, which is good and bad. Because before I feel like I had a more diverse community, just because I had like high school, I was in Romania, which is not diverse by default, but at least people's interests or like people's desires were very different because like high school was public. And right now I'm in San Francisco, and everyone here is just talking about AI or something that they want to innovate, an app that they want to make. Things very niche down. They're very diverse, but also very niche down to what this area is about. And what this area is about is usually innovation and creation. And if you're not doing these kind of things, or if you're not super successful in another thing, then what are you doing with your life? And everyone has a personal project. Everyone identifies themselves as their project and as their work and as their, I don't know, you either work at a top company like Google, Microsoft, whatever, or you start a startup that grows you, I don't know, billions of dollars. And of course not everyone is like that, but I think the vast majority of people that I'm surrounded by are like that, especially because I've been in hacker houses a lot. Hacker houses are where people come to like their projects. And I've also been to some like camps that only accept Olympiad people, and I've only been there. This is in the rationality community, and also those people are super niche, and I'm not an Olympiad person, so I don't know how I got into that that community, honestly. I feel like I'm the only person, well, I'm not the only person, but I feel like I'm between the only people who are not doing Olympiads who are in those communities. So how I feel, so of course this helps in a lot of ways, and it's called the osmosis effect. And this is like basically you absorb their thinking automatically, and that is true. I feel like I am starting to think very similar to how they're thinking, and I'm starting to see problems in the way that they see problems, and I'm starting to, I don't know, basically remove all of the limits that I thought I had. So they literally have a confidence in themselves that is very interesting. It's confidence, but it's based on something. Like you're confident because you're the best in the country in this thing. But having this confidence makes you also not see a lot of limits that you might have, because you can surpass them. So I feel a lot of ways I feel like I don't have limits right now because I've been surrounded by people who don't believe in limits. And also I feel like there's nothing that I cannot learn because I've been surrounded by people who constantly learn new things. And I feel like also I have some thought patterns, I don't know, ways in which I look at life. For example, breaking things super down to the core, or like challenging every single assumption and stuff like that. Usually in my daily life or like in past communities, I was not encouraged to do this at all. And I made a video about the 5 mental models that I learned, and that basically make you a genius. So if you want to watch. You also see how they approach situations in which they are, where they make decisions, and how they sample things. Like they ask the right questions most of the time, and it's interesting to see how they do that, because most people just, if they have a problem, they solve it either by themselves or with their best friend. These people ask, I don't know, their designer, their therapist, their random people on the random person on the street, and like find a large sample size of information that they can draw from, or they solve in the most analytical way. Like they make some sort of like map of things and like possible ways in which that situation could go, and then they pick the most rational decision they could make in that situation. The problem with the high confidence and you being surrounded by people who you perceive as better than you is that you literally feel like they're too ahead. And if you have that mentality of yourself, which I think I do to some extent, then when I do interact with them, I feel like I'm kind of below them and I'm the learner in the situation. Or I might feel like imposter syndrome, like, oh, I'm 20, but this person is also 20 and they achieve so much in their lives. Or it feels like you don't really belong to that place. And I've done readings on how to solve this thing, and they're saying that, and I've done some readings on how to solve this, but I've tried it myself. And if you constantly say that you belong here and that if you see the gap between them and you are like, but this is my chance to grow so much in so little time, and most people don't have this opportunity. And I try to see life in that way, and in the way that I am bridging the gap between me and them. And it's not that I'm not intelligent enough to do these things, it's just that I didn't spend enough time going through these things. But being surrounded by these people also makes me go through those things very quickly and up the ladder, which is to some extent true. I feel like you're learning a lot by asking someone who really knows the subject, because they can explain in a super simple way, and if they end up getting to the core of the thing, then you can basically build up from that. But it's very hard to go to the core of things if you're learning by yourself, because you have a lot of unfiltered knowledge. Now with AI it's easier. Also, their normal becomes your normal too. You train with Olympic runners, you feel very slow in the beginning, but if you go with it and run a lot, then by the end you're gonna end up having a similar speed, or like maybe lower than them, but like their normal is gonna be your normal. And if you manage to track your progress and track your process going through all of this and managing to get to their level and see where you came from and where you're now, it's very, very beautiful to see. I haven't started doing this that much. One thing that I've learned from them is that taking notes about everything is the most important thing you can do in your life. And this is like a recurring theme. Not usually every single person that wants to learn something about life and like, wants to grow themselves told me that, and they're older than me, told me that the one thing that they regret not doing in their 20s is taking notes about everything. So I made a journal of life journal on Google Drive, literally, and every single day I'm writing like things that I learned. And this is how these videos come to life, this is how my like essays come to life, because I just generally every single time I listen to a podcast or like something from someone around me, then I just note it down, literally. And if you do that, one, you have a lot of things to talk about, or like you have a lot of things to research or study by yourself. Two, you also see your progress. Like you see that a month ago you had this thinking process and now you have a completely different thinking process. Or like a month ago you didn't know where, I don't know, Mississippi is, but now you do. So like you had this super huge process of you had this super huge progress of like. It's also that you develop very high standards for yourself, because you see these people and you know that they achieved a lot of things, and you kind of, if you're around them, then you can achieve the same things, which is true. Like I've achieved super cool things. You don't really need that big of a brain to start a startup. It's mostly luck and like how you position yourself and which market you choose. Average seemed, well, I don't think I was ever okay with average, but like to some extent I wasn't also striving for being the best. I'm not saying I'm striving for being the best now, but it's definitely an idea that I have. Definitely a standard that I have. Like I really want to go into a niche and be the best in that niche. And it's very hard to end up doing that, but it's definitely possible for everyone, and it doesn't need to be STEM or I don't know. But being surrounded by these people who are the best in their niches, then it kind of to realize that it's very cool to be the only person on earth. Well, maybe not. That's only like super niche professors, but it's cool to be like one of the few people on earth who know a lot about this subject and could talk for hours about this subject. It also gives you like an illusion of your progress and what you're doing too. Like you're surrounded by so many people who do so many cool things, but then you kind of like you're doing cool things too, and you kind of like you don't really need to do stuff because they are doing stuff. Like I know it's counterintuitive, but this is what I'm feeling right now. Like I feel like I'm meeting with them, and for them it's just like a very relaxing, you know, they have, and they maybe don't have that many, you know, socialize as much as maybe me, or like they do some crazy things like traveling or whatever, just like other people do, because they prioritize like the project or like they're studying. But then I am traveling and conversing with people all the time. I'm not really focusing on one thing that much. Now more, but like not before. And I keep getting this sense of progress because every time they say they did something, I'm so proud of them, but also I feel like I kind of contributed because I'm in their life. Well, not, it doesn't really feel like that, but that's like a very simple way to put it, because you kind of feel like, oh, you're surrounded by so many cool things happening. It feels like you're doing stuff for those things, but you're actually not. At least I'm not. And also you're always in this loop of learning new things, but not necessarily producing stuff. Like, this is why I restarted my YouTube channel for the 10th time. I feel like I'm learning a lot, but like, who am I sharing this with? What am I doing with this knowledge, you know? I don't think I'm like at the level where I can do some like progress in like some field, especially nowadays. I feel like I can definitely share this knowledge with someone else in a very chill format, and hoping that someone understands what I'm saying, like, you know, learn something from this. Like 5 years ago or 4 years ago, I was in Romania and I was listening to these podcasts and these videos on YouTube of people sharing their lives and sharing what they've learned in their 20s or like when they were 25, and I think that's one thing that grew me the most, because I was constantly spending time with these people that are constantly trying to grow themselves, and it feels very, going back to like people who you are surrounded by, this is applying to like social media things too. Like, you are constantly surrounded by people who are trying to learn and are learning and are sharing those goals and are, you know, are super high achieving and are doing things with their lives. Then you are basically surrounding yourself with those people, even if it's not a physical person. Like, I feel like me watching those videos of like highly achieving people and like learning a lot from them from when I was younger made me fit into this community now, because I got used to how they think and I got used to how they talk. And I'm not saying that I'm as smart as them, but I definitely have some things in common with them that I wouldn't have had if I didn't listen to all of those things. So some things that I learned from this experience is that every single time I learn something, I have to put it into something, and either in my journal or some sort of mind map or some sort of notes or creating a video or anything that is actually me making stuff and teaching people those things, or like something with that knowledge applicable. Applying that knowledge is super important, and I cannot just stay and learn from those people because that's not what they're doing. Competition is bullshit. Like, you should not see people as your competition. You should see people as your acceleration tool, or I wouldn't say see people as tools, but they can be your acceleration and you can be their acceleration in other fields. And if you're gonna measure your progress, you should measure your own progress and with your past self, not necessarily with their progress. Like, they're gonna move faster than you because you are on a learning curve and they're already at the top. But you are growing through that learning curve. You should be comparing with your past self, because if you look at that, then you are growing more than them from like compared to like their past selves and your past self. So you shouldn't feel behind. Being around super smart people is a super amazing blessing, and if you end up in a context or like a situation where you can do that, please do. Or if you find an opportunity to do that, please do. Like, it's gonna change your life and it's gonna make you grow so much. Like, you're gonna realize how many things that are gonna change about you. But also you have to be conscious about it, and I don't know if I am to the extent that I want to be. I'm not perfect, obviously. I made this channel not to be your, I don't know, tutor. I made this channel to be your random person on the internet who shares one thing that they learned at some point, and she just wants to share her knowledge with the world. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. If you like this kind of videos of me just talking and without any script, just comment down below. Maybe I'll make more. This is super nice for me. Love you guys and have the best day of your life. Kisses.